Good afternoon, preppers. Welcome to Goshen Prepping. You know, in our modern times, I'm amazed at some of the great ideas and solutions that we have because, of course, problems arise all the time. And mankind, out of anything, is amazing at adapting to those situations. And this certainly holds true for cities because if you ever actually look at cities and how they constantly evolve, just look back 20 or 30 years, and it's amazing how the cities have changed so much. But there's actually a new city evolution coming, and you definitely need to be prepared for this because it is coming very quickly. So watch this whole video, and I think you're going to be shocked and probably even a little disgusted too. But this whole idea, the original idea of cities evolving is a great idea, but of course, you know what happens. Others actually turn it into a problem. In fact, what we're going to see is this new city evolution is actually solving a problem, but actually turning it into literally an urban prison. And the worst part about this, by far, is people will welcome this with open arms. You know they will. So I would like to introduce to you the concept of a 15-minute city. It's a 15-minute city, putting people at the center of urban transformation. So a quick understanding of a 15-minute city, in reality, is not a bad thing, and the idea is actually pretty good. But basically setting it up, instead of actually having every single city street drivable, instead you cut it off, actually have certain sectors where people can live, and everything you'll need, from grocery shopping to parks to recreation to schools and everything, is all within 15 minutes. So that way you don't have to go really far. Basically setting up micro communities all through cities. So you can see this entire website is devoted to such things, and you can actually see some artist concepts of what it would look like in different parts of 15-minute cities. Here's like one of the sections they're actually looking at. I believe this is a section they're working on in Toronto. And this picture shows you everything within 15 minutes of walking or bicycling for your entire community. And these pictures really show it. This is nice, by the way. I love these cities where there used to be a road going through there, but they closed it off, and now it's simply pedestrian only. Look at this. It's just a pleasure. Very aesthetically pleasing to the eye, relaxing, but they're clearly showing pedestrians only in those certain areas and no cars at all. Now, no matter how pleasing this is, you have to understand that in all these articles, every one of them, it talks about climate change. The whole purpose of this is because of climate change. And you know there's something very sinister at hand because they don't do anything, this kind of stuff, to make it so it's really good for people. In fact, if you really research, the World Economic Forum is at the center of this entire thing. They are all trying to make it look like they're rebuilding the world. Now, again, there are some really good benefits to this, for the fact that, you know, in my opinion, is rebuilding communities. Right now, the world, everybody is so divided, and actually having real neighborhoods reforming again would be great. Not to mention less traffic through neighborhoods. You know, that's the way it used to be. No traffic in certain areas. People would simply be able to live and walk and ride their bikes. And not to mention, you actually would start recognizing people who don't belong in your neighborhood because, you know, it's easier to see when all the areas are kind of cut off. And the best part, of course, I always stress this too, is the exercise. Instead of driving everywhere you go, well, now you're going to walk or bicycle. Okay, so, of course, what's the problem? Because they're not doing this to help mankind. That's what they're showing you, and they want you to think it is, and making it aesthetically pleasing. Look how beautiful this is. It is not about you. It is not about mankind. It is not about making lives better for urbanites. It is simply put, it is all about control. Control under the guise of climate change. And they make that emphatically clear. They're not trying to hide that at all. And it may have started out as a mean to restructure a city to simply make things work better, and I applaud that, but it quickly changed into a control of the population. Of course it did. All right, let me explain. So from the website Architectonic, they're showing right here a pedestrian-friendly utopia. Look at that word, utopia, through the design of 15-minute cities. Here's simply just another image of how they're trying to set these up. While a 15-minute city might seem like a utopian impossibility, many policymakers around the globe are already beginning to give their urban cores new life with better city planning. Now, not just new life with better city planning, but decentralization and new laws. For example, let's go ahead and look at these little triangles. This is the way things are now, practically speaking. In the city, there's going to be a lot of people walking. Maybe more cycling. I don't know. It depends on the city you live. Some actually have a lot of bike trails. Public transport's a huge thing. And private cars, people depend on public cars. I don't think in cities so much they do. I mean, I guess like cities like LA, but the really dense cities, not as much. I think it's more public transport. But this is what they want. They want people to walk everywhere. Some people will be cycling into longer areas. There will be some public transport, and private cars are going to be few and far between. And I need to add, again, this is all based from the World Economic Forum, the WEF, and they actually want to have it so by 2030, there are no cars at all. Crazy. All right, but the reason the cars are at the bottom is because in their utopia, they don't want you to leave your sector. Let's go ahead and call it a sector. Because you have to understand, even if you see the word utopia, utopia is synonymous with socialism. I mean, you need to know this. This is not something new or made up. This has been around for a long time, that communism and socialism always talks about utopia, where all mankind lives in harmony. Wouldn't that be great? But the problem is, it's not about mankind living in harmony. It's about only a small group of people will oversee that harmonious living of mankind, and only they get to actually strive to the better things in life. While the rest of you guys, you'll stay down here. You're not really worth it. You'll stay in your sector. I want you to understand this and stick with me, because I'm going to show you something very interesting in a minute. But in the meantime, you need to understand, this is vitally clear to understand this. This is already in progress. It's already happening. The last time we were in New York, we were in Times Square, and we were actually with a good friend of ours, and you'll see him on the channel sometimes, Henry Rosa. And I was like, wow, last time in Times Square, weren't these roads here? He goes, yeah, they closed off the roads. And there's actually still one street, a street, I should say, going through the city. But the other streets they closed off for more pedestrians. I get that. It's Times Square. It's a big public place. They want, a lot of tourism and stuff come through there. And I get that. But he said that it's actually many parts of New York are already becoming carless, and they're trying to shut off the certain areas to start setting up these sectors. It's already in progress. And the thing is, that was 4 or 5 years ago. I can only imagine what it's like now. In fact, look at this. Public Square, a CNU journal, actually is starting to rank different cities depending on their 15-minute city list. How well are they doing? But this is not happening just in the United States, not even close. It is happening all over the world, including Oxford. Look at this. Traffic filters will divide the city into 15-minute neighborhoods. Roadblocks stopping most motorists from driving through Oxford city center will divide the city into 6 15-minute neighborhoods, a county council travel chief said. And this next line sums it up perfectly. And he insisted the controversial plan will go ahead whether people like it or not. You will do this no matter if you like it or not, because you know why? The WEF said it should be done. By the way, in this particular case, I need to thank one of our followers who sent me all this information, because I really didn't know a whole lot about this until it pops up. And I'm like, yeah, now it makes sense. These sectors are already starting to be produced. And not to mention, in cities like, for example, Oxford, they're well underway, and they already have the barriers there to prevent people from going through. But you know what? Human nature, people will not be contained. They will rebel against this. In fact, they already are. CCTV shows vandalism in Oxford because of the residents. Look at this picture. Here's one of the barricades, and there was a pole right here making it so bikes can go through, or mopeds, whatever. But the pole made it so cars couldn't go through. The people in the towns area, those little sectors, are now pulling the poles out and filling it with cement so they can't put them back. You go, people. This is great. You can see that same thing right here in the video. They're going through. You can see the pole right here in the center, the bike going through. And then as time goes on, people are starting to get fed up. Look, the pole's gone. Or how about this part right here? Look, here we can actually see a van coming through saying, nope, I am not going to enjoy having poles here at all. Goodbye, pole. And this whole video and everything through this is just really awesome to see how the people are not putting up with this. And here's the guy pouring cement into it. But let's read some of this. This is very interesting. This has resulted in some cases of vandalism, leading the council to, you know what, let's step up the game, spend £100,000 to replace plastic bollards in East Oxford with steel ones to prevent further damage. And despite the damage, they actually approved 6 more of these filters. They will be equipped with surveillance cameras and prevent cars from traveling through without a permit. We'll talk about that in a second. Without a permit, other vehicles can go through, like buses, coaches, taxis, vans, mopeds, HGVs, all have access all the time. Oh, what is this? Corporate stuff? Yeah, corporates can do, but people can't. Speaking about the vandalism, Plummer, the campaign director for the Livable Street, said, "It makes me feel very sad and it makes me feel very frustrated. It is vandalism. It's destroying public property, and that's paid by our taxes. Taxes from people who don't want it." The people have spoken with their cars by driving over these barriers. But again, the WEF, and as we're going to see soon, governments all across the world are going to be trying to push having these sector areas. Now, I actually saw some footage too, and it's kind of like footage that's being leaked around from the same people in Oxford, where they are basically saying that these sectors can be put into place, and if you continue to go outside your sector, you're allowed to go out so many times, but if you keep going out of it, you'll start getting fined or charged for going out your sector. Sounds like cages to me. Sounds like concentration camps. It sounds like we are basically be herding into areas where they can control us even more. All right, again, there may be benefits to such a system. I love for the fact that you can actually put neighborhoods back together again, but for the fact that the WEF's involved, you know what, WF, you're not in charge. No matter how much you're trying to control the world, the people are in charge, not you. So either way, Goshen prepping, we certainly, in this case, need to be prepared for what's coming.